If you trace Whitman's writing throughout the years, there's much talk of a love for comradeship and friendship. However, there is never, not once, a love like the one described in his unpublished manuscript collection, Live Oak with Moss. This love surpasses any other for our poet. It's one that holds him tight, that burns in his chest, that both fulfills and bleeds him dry. And though he is extremely open about his feelings on politics and most relationships, this is one of the few, if not only, direct examples of Whitman keeping personal matters just that, personal. Although written sometime near or during 1959, the time Whitman was writing a new version of Leaves of Grass, the Live Oak with Moss collection never quite made it to print. Instead, Walt chose to use select poems from the collection and interweave them among his Calamus cluster, which he first published in 1860. So what happened? What is Walt really hiding, and why do we get Calamus and not oak? In the late 50s and early 60s, when living in Boston, Walt shared multiple letter correspondences with a young Irish stage driver named Fred Vaughan. In the late 50s and early 60s, when living in Boston, Walt shared multiple letter correspondences with a young Irish stage driver named Fred Vaughan. Each letter had a similar cadence. There is a deep connection between the two, and the desire for them to see each other only grows stronger as time passes. Specifically, Fred always seems to speak with an urgency to see Walt. In his March 27, 1860 letter, Fred concludes with, "Write me a good long letter, Walt, as I am anxious to hear from you." April 30th, he says, "If you come on here this week, be sure and make it your business to call and see me. Do not neglect it, please, Walt, for I am anxious to see you." Though we cannot know for certain how the two met, it is presumed they found each other at Pfaff's Saloon, a bohemian hangout spot in New York which was home to an organization called the Fred Gray Association. This group was a loose confederation of young men who seemed anxious to explore new possibilities of male-male affection. It is here that Vanity Fair was created, and just maybe, where Whitman and Vaughan found love. On March 17, 1860, a Vanity Fair parody included a large drawing of a bearded Whitman standing above and behind a seated younger man. Is it possible the men of Pfaff's recognized Walt and Fred's love? Could this indeed be a portrait of the two? The questions continue. As their relationship kept building, the poet's once independent mind seemed to stray. In Poem 2 of Live Oak, he says, "I saw in Louisiana a live oak growing. All alone stood it, and the moss hung down from the branches. Without any companion it grew there, glistening out with the joyous leaves of dark green. And its look, rude, unbending, lusty, made me think of myself. But I wondered how it could utter joyous leaves, standing alone there without its friend, its lover. For I knew I could not." But just as soon as the passion took off, so too did it begin to crash. Not a month after the April letters, on May 17, 1860, Fred wrote, "Dear Walt, what the devil is the matter? Nothing serious, I hope. It seems mighty queer that I cannot succeed in having one word from you. I swear I would have thought you would be the last man in this world to neglect me. But I am afraid. Walt, I hope you will be home soon. I want to see you very much indeed. I've never thought more frequently about you than during the time you've been in Boston. Make it your business to call and see me as soon as you arrive in New York." Not much evidence points in any direction about what trouble was brewing between the two. However, there are allusions in Fred's letters that find themselves answering some of the pain the poet feels. "Bob and I had quite a long walk together in Central Park late Sunday. We talked much of you, and in anticipation had some long strolls together in the park." Perhaps this prompted Walt's darkness in Poem 8. "Hours discouraged, distracted, for he, the one I cannot content myself without. Soon I saw him content himself without me." On Fred's side, however, if you trace through these poems, there is talk of not simply one, but many men. In Poem 4, Whitman writes, "It seems to me there are other men and other lands, yearning and pensive. And it seems to me if I could know those men, I should love them as I love men in my own lands. Oh, I think we should be brethren. I think I should be happy with them." Further, Whitman left another unfinished poem named The Two Vaults at Pfaff's. And this one explicitly describes what Whitman calls the beautiful young men who enjoyed the organization. Could this be a subset to Live Oak with Moss? And if so, how certain are we that beautiful men does not imply any sexual nature? So, was it jealousy that led to the demise of the relationship? Could infidelity be present? Questions never seemed to die down, but whatever did happen was final. On May 2nd, 1862, nearly 2 years after the demise began, Walt received a letter from Vaughan saying the following: "I am to be married tomorrow. I want you to be there. Do not fail, please, as I am very anxious you should come." And that was that. Fred married, had 4 children, and Walt continued writing. Despite much being left to interpretation, we know that there was an undeniable love shared between Fred Vaughan and Walt Whitman. And if this love did exist with the same passion and the same fervor as their letter correspondences assume, would it not be too far a stretch to say that the deep, the definitive love, the one that caused Walt so much pain he could not share it with the world, was that between him and Fred Vaughan? But I suppose that perhaps the beauty in this tale is that we don't know. And specifically, it's that we don't get to know, because this story is about a love that means many things, but among the beauty of it all is also a great deal of pain. And if our poet needed this collection to be just his, perhaps that's what we should leave it at. So let us mourn for him. Let us mourn for their love. And let us all bid farewell to Whitman's dearest friend, his comrade, his lover, Fred Vaughan.